Yep.
Defeating his good friend, Sheen Sarani. Sheen, of course, playing Esper, because why wouldn't he be? But Jim's Bant Company deck, if I had to pick a deck that I think is really good so far this weekend, we've seen quite a few different things, this might be number one.
Sure. A lot of good cards. And they work individually. They come together to be even better.
Now, Jim's going to start off with a Lumbering Falls. You see Chris is going to start off with a Fortified Village, Reveal of Plains, and now an Oath of Nissa. So what is the green-white tokens deck that Chris is running? Well, let me tell you. He's got a weird creature base here in Thriving Inspector, Elvish Visionary, Hangerback Walker, and Scion Summoner. And then he goes big with Gideon and Nissa to be able to make some +1/+1 counters.
Yep.
Some removal in Declaration in Stone, which is a very popular card this weekend. Oath of Nissa to be able to find what he's looking for. That just found a Thriving Inspector. And then 4 copies of Secure the Waste.
You skipped a significant card in there.
Oh, did I?
Oh, yeah. Tell us a little bit of his mana base here.
Oh, okay, so he's got some green-white dual lands in Canopy Vista and Fortified Village, 7 plain, 7 forest. That's it. There are no copies of Westville Abbey in his deck.
Except for your line.
Except for the 4 that are in his deck.
Yeah.
And he might be the best Westville Abbey deck in the tournament.
Yeah, that's a pretty significant card for his deck here.
Sylvan Advocate for Jim on his second turn. For Chris, it's a Hangerback Walker for 1. This deck, when you take a look at the deck list, it feels like it might be a little bit disjointed, I suppose. But I imagine Chris has gotten quite a few wins with large Secure the Waste turns on the end step into, maybe I already have a Gideon on the battlefield, or I have a Nissa, play one of the other ones, and all of a sudden there's a lot of 3/3s attacking.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Declaration in Stone seems like a great card in the format to fight these token strategies. But if you're casting Secure the Waste at the end of their turn, and you've chipped away for some damage earlier in the game, sometimes that can just close out the game by itself.
So it looks like he's just trying to build a big swell into one turn and perhaps make a Westvale Abbey transform into Ormondal. We'll see how this particular game does play out. And, of course, the entire match, as Jim is going to play a forest as his 3rd land. Colors not appear to be an issue for the 2015 Players Champion. And he's got a Bounding Crassus in hand. He will play the Bounding Crassus and tap the Hangerback Walker, maybe trying to choke a little bit of Chris's mana by making it activate that, but he had no interest. So now we head back Chris's way. He'll play a forest for his turn. The follow-up here is a Scion Summoner. That's going to bring a Scion along with it. Limited Superstar, maybe seeing a little more playing constructed, I think, than we expected.
2 creatures for 1 card.
Yeah.
It's fine value.
To Davis, we're going to go. Bounding Crassus, Sylvan Advocate, 3 lands on the battlefield. He'll take a draw step here for his 4th turn.
And interestingly enough, Jim chose not to attack last turn with a Sylvan Advocate.
I was a little bit surprised by that. That was a conscious decision, obviously.
Yeah, there must be a reason that he didn't want the Thopter token to end up on the board.
His deck is a little bit soft to flyers. I will say that. But I was surprised not to see an attack there at all. Now he's attacking. And it appears as though Chris is just immediately taking. He will fall down to 15. And Davis with 4 mana. That's kind of the sweet spot for his deck. He can play some wonky games. Bounding Crassus, Eclectic Company, Ojtai's Command, Jamoka's Command.
Yep.
He does a nice job of leaving up 4 mana. But what does he want to do is the question.
Yeah, we don't have a real good look at Jim's hand right now, but ideally, he wants to play the Eclectic Company on turn 4. So if he's not passing the turn, I can't imagine that he has it in his hand.
He's already started reaching for some mana, so it leads me to believe he does not have Eclectic Company. I think we're going to see a Jace Friends Prodigy, a Duskwatch Recruit, and a passing of the turn. So we head back Chris Andersen's way, and he'll take a draw step. The big question here for Chris is, does he have some of these powerful Planeswalkers? Now, he has a 2-color deck, so mana can be difficult at times, even though he has 8 duels, but Oath of Nissa actually helps him cast those Planeswalkers a lot easier.
Oh yeah, he can find the lands that he needs, he can find the creature that he needs, he can find the Planeswalker that he needs. And it allows casting the Planeswalkers to be much easier, obviously.
Here's a 3-bit Inspector. It'll bring a clue along with it. You see Chris's hand, there's a lot of lands over there and a copy of Secure the Waste. And you have to imagine that's the game plan. A big Secure the Waste, and then some sort of Crusade effect, or an activation of Westvale Abbey.
Yeah, it looks like Chris's deck has the ability to gum up the ground for some amount of time, but not forever. And Jim's creatures are all going to be bigger as the game goes on. So Chris needs to find a payoff card before he falls into the situation of just chump blocking over and over.
Jim going to take a look at his hand. We've talked a couple times this weekend, and I'm sure we'll do it again today, about how Jace is still good, but nowhere near as good as it used to be.
It's a little bit slower.
Yeah. I mean, Jim has played 4 turns this game. There is not a single card in his graveyard.
We wouldn't have seen that in the old format.
No, there'd probably be 3 fetch lands in his graveyard by now.
Well, we'd probably still be shuffling decks on turn 2.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true, yeah. We wouldn't have even made it this far. 5th land here for Jim. Here are the attacks.
Keeping it aggressive.
Yep.
And Dramoka's Command kind of has to be in the back of Chris's mind.
See Jim's hand a little bit. Did not appear as though there was a Dramoka's Command there just yet, but as you said, he's got to be cognizant of that a little bit. And see if Chris wants to make any blocks here at all. He's got a lot to think about in this situation. Camera on Chris, please.
And his consideration here, he obviously needs all of these creatures on the board in order to get the maximum value out of Nissa and a Gideon token potentially and Westvale Abbey, but he also wants to make the most favorable trades possible while he can make those trades. So once his life total is super low, his options become much more limited.
A pretty big block there on the Sylvan Advocate.
I like this block.
Okay.
Killing the Advocate before it grows is dealing with it before it's obviously a bigger problem.
And not only is that a bigger problem, but if the Advocate hangs around and becomes a 4/5, that Lumbering falls as a 5/5 then you've got some real issues.
Yeah, Jim sees a lot of benefits out of the Sylvan Advocate.
So Jim gets to deal 2 damage somewhere. He's going to order these blockers accordingly. And it looks like he wants a Silent Summoner first. Among other things. Ah, right. That's a magic card. Okay.
That's a good one.
Yeah, Archangel Avacyn. Right. So block however you want. Doesn't really matter. Here's an activation of a clue. Chris will draw a card. Now, Silent Summoner is going to die. Sylvan Advocate clearly will not, because Archangel Avacyn is a very powerful magic card.
Average.
Yeah, average, right. As we said yesterday, it probably should be an uncommon.
Sarah Angel is an uncommon, right?
I think we're going to see Chris level up the old Hangerback Walker here in just a moment.
Yep.
A difficult spot here for Andersen. It looks like these two are communicating a little bit on the board state here, clearing things up a touch. There's your activation for Hangerback Walker. And now Andersen will untap very quickly and take a draw. Again, secure the waste in hand, and it looks like quite a few lands. Hangerback Walker is the draw.
Yeah, it seemed like the Hangerback Walker and now a second Hangerback Walker would help really gum up this ground and give him a whole lot of time. But with Avacyn hitting the board on Jim's side, it's a significant clock. Chris is only at 8 life, 2 swings from that, and he'll be dead.
Yeah, the thing about Avacyn, and there are a lot of things to talk about with this card, but it's just, it ruins the opponent in combat most times. You know, Chris's block last turn made a lot of sense. Want to get Advocate off the battlefield, and Avacyn immediately invalidated that. And now it's difficult for Chris to even attack because there's just the 4/4 flyer on the battlefield.
Sure.
And Jim just gets to kind of free roll his attacks and just say, yeah, you know, it's got vigilance and you have no flying blockers, so this is kind of easy mode. And there's not a lot that Chris can do about it.
Well, and with it being a flyer, an evasion creature, it's not going to run into those Hangerback Walkers. It's just coming over the top.
An activation of Jace there by Jim. Fortified Village will go to the graveyard. Davis will untap. He'll take a draw step here. Picked up another copy of Jace. If he wanted land number 6, he could have had it there with the Fortified Village for the Sylvan Advocate. But he elected not to. Avacyn is currently a 2-turn clock, so Jim can play it pretty safe here. There's not a ton for him to worry about at this stage, it feels like.
Sure, he might, excuse me, he might be interested in keeping the pressure on just in case the Avacyn leaves the board. So if his opponent has Declaration in Stone or something along those lines, he might want to kill the Hangerback Walkers while they're still little.
Sure, that does make sense.
Because if the Avacyn gets killed and Jim has to fight through the ground, dealing with some 3/3, 4/4, or 5/5 Hangerback Walkers is a giant nightmare.
The draw for Jim off of that Jace, you see him discard another Jace, was the very powerful Reflector Mage. And so what I think Davis is trying to figure out is there a way I can Reflector Mage something in order to get you dead this turn?
Yeah.
Or at least cripple your board.
Yeah, I expect him to attack with just the Avacyn.
Okay.
But there are considerations for other attacks.
And it is just Avacyn right now for the 2015 Players Champion. Andersen will fall down to 4. Yeah, the interesting thing about Avacyn, I think, outside of it just being an absurd card, is I think you try to get yourself in situations where you get it to transform to deal maybe the last 3. And we haven't seen that situation come up very much, but I imagine, as players play more with the card, they're going to figure out ways to make certain attacks where, well, it's lethal if you take it, or it's lethal if you kill one of my creatures.
Sure. I mean, we see just how good it is just as the 4/4 that has the indestructible effect when it comes into play. We haven't seen it flip that many times, and it's still a spectacular card.
Yeah. To Chris Andersen, we're going to go. He'll take a draw step here, and he's going to concede the game because he cannot beat the mythic Archangel. As Jim Davis is going to win game number 1 here over Chris. Bant Company up a game over green-white tokens. Both these players 8-1. They're going to their sideboards, and we will do the exact same thing. We will start with Chris Andersen, who has his Archangel Evansons in the board, all 4 of them, along with 2 copies of Clipwings, 2 Dramoka's Commands, 2 Silk Wrap, 2 Evolutionary Leap, 2 Surak the Hawk Caller, and a Dragonlord Dramoka. Craig, what do you like here?
Well, he just lost to a big angel, so the Clipwings seem like an easy addition. Looking at the list, we know that Jim Davis isn't playing that many flyers, so it's possible that Chris brings those in and they get stuck in his hand. But the Archangel Avacyn is such a powerful card that probably have to bring the Clipwings in just as the insurance policy, even if there's the chance to get stuck in your hand.
Well, do you want to go the Clipwings approach, or do you just want to go the Archangel Avacyn approach?
Bring in your own Archangels.
Yeah.
I think that's probably not what Chris wants to do in this matchup.
Okay.
I think there are 4 of them in his sideboard for decks that are trying to kill all of his creatures. So a deck with Radiant Flames, a deck with a Wrath of God effect.
Okay.
That's his counter to those types of decks.
Other side of things here for Jim. He's got a Tireless Tracker. It was very impressive for him yesterday, the one that he does have in his main deck. A Den Protector, a Hidden Dragon Slayer, 2 Lantern Scout, 2 Declaration in Stone, 2 Invocation of St. Traft, and No Size Command, 2 Clipwings of his own, and then 3 Negates.
Yeah, Jim's deck lines up pretty well against his opponent. I don't expect a lot of changes, but definitely these Declaration and Stones are going to come in. If a situation comes up where he has to tussle with a Hangerback Walker and a whole bunch of Thopters end up on the board, the Declaration of Stone is just obviously the cleanest answer for that problem.
It's interesting. Declaration in Stone is a card that's going to see a lot of play.
Yes.
We've already seen it see a lot of play. It's a card that potentially we might see people go out of their way to splash because it's pretty easy to do so, and it's a cheap spell. It's starting to invalidate quite a few cards, it feels like.
Yes.
I think a Hangerback Walker, it exiles, so you don't get the Thopters when it dies, and then if they do get a bunch of Thopters, you just get to kill them all with no punishment.
Yep.
It seems like this is the kind of card that's going to have a huge impact on this format.
Yeah, and at 2 mana, it's just super efficient.
It's a card I expect to see a lot of play between both these 2 players and across this format. So they're going to shuffle up, get ready for game number 2. We are going to take a moment to talk about the StarCityGames.com weekly sale that is taking place. It ends tomorrow at 10:59 a.m. East Coast time. So make sure you do go over to StarCityGames.com and find out what moderately played foils you can get 25% off of. Now, there is a Johnny Vengeance, there's Temple Garden, there's Cryptic Command, and Terminus. But what are you looking for the wife to get you? Is there a particular foil that's on the wish list?
I need a few foil fetch lands to round out my Legacy deck.
Ah, okay.
So, the Polluted Delta is probably right into my wheelhouse.
Perfect. 25% off a moderately played one of those?
Sure.
That sounds good to me. So I know Jazz...
4 moderately played.
Oh, I thought you just needed 1.
Yeah, I mean, when I say finish foiling out my Legacy, I mean start foiling out my Legacy deck.
Understood. So. Well, StarCityGames.com is the place to go for that. And
thanks, honey.
Yeah. As Jim does finish shuffling, we will learn a little bit more about our 2015 Players Champion. That is Jim Davis. He is 31 years old from Long Island, New York. 9 open top 8s with 1 W last year in Indianapolis, 2 invitational top 8s, and of course he is our 2015 Players Champion. In addition to teaching, he is a local DJ.
Yep, Spin Dr. Jim.
Yeah, it's actually DJ JD. See, because that just makes way more sense than Spin Dr. Jim. And he loves hockey. He was the captain of his roller hockey team.
I'm so deflated after
You went with
that.
Spin Dr. Jim instead of the most obvious one, which also just makes the most sense.
It was too obvious.
You do whatever you want, man. You
All
do
right.
whatever you want. We're gonna
I'll
get ready
keep
to watch.
trying.
We're gonna get ready to watch game number 2 here in just a second. It looks like Jim is gonna be going down to 6, I believe. Yes, he is.
All right, we'll see if Jim decided to bring these negates in against his opponent as well.
You mean Spin Dr. Jim?
Yes.
If Spin Dr. Jim decided to bring in a negate. See, normally I'm the one who has to take the blows in the booth.
Sure.
Okay, you deliver quite a few punches to me. I'm getting it in while I can.
I don't know what you're talking about,
Yeah.
one. And two, maybe I'm one of those rare individuals that can give it and not take it.
Oh, you're one of those. Okay, gotcha. Well, this is going to be a rough couple of minutes for you then. Here's an Oath of Nissa for Chris. He'll take a look at the top couple of cards. Going to take one with him.
I regret everything.
Yeah, it's a Gideon here for Mr. Andersen. To Jim Davis we go. He will play a fortified village. It'll enter the battlefield tapped, and we head over Chris Andersen's way.
All right, so we saw him get one of his payoff cards.
Yeah,
now,
this time.
Yeah, now he's got to get on the board quick.
Yeah, there's a good start here with Hangerback Walker.
He is on the play this game. He's got to get a decent setup going and then execute his game plan.
An island into a Sylvan Advocate here for Jim. Yeah, we head back Chris Andersen's way. He'll draw a card. Looks like another Gideon. This is an Elvish Visionary. That'll allow Andersen to draw a card. Elvish Visionary, a card Chris is very familiar with given his Elves days in Legacy. He'll play a Plains and simply pass the turn back with Hangerback Walker's activation at the ready. To Davis will go. He'll untap those 2 lands, take his 3rd turn of the game. And there is a forest.
And any of Jim's 3 drops would be good right now, but Reflector Mage is always just the absolute blowout on turn 3.
It's never bad.
Yeah.
Double block. Activation. All right.
We're going to go with some tokens.
Yeah. But again, as we mentioned, Declaration in Stone does such a nice job of clearing these up. But I think Jim has realized that he just wants that Hangerback Walker off the battlefield. Doesn't want that basically stopping his progress.
Yep.
An Oath of Nissa here from Chris.
And we see that Chris has brought in his Archangel Avacens. So he's using those to fight his opponent's Archangel Avacens, as well as to protect his creatures in combat. And it's another threat from the air. The interesting thing is, did Jim bring in his own Clip Wings out of his sideboard? He knows that his opponent's on a dedicated token strategy, which Ormondal is a big part of, and Clip Wings is a very clean answer to that card.
It is, but it's also the issue, right, is the Thopter tokens, because
Yes.
Clip Wings has sacrifice a flying creature.
Yep.
So how good is Clip Wings? In reality, it's horrible right now. In other situations, it might be the best card he could possibly have. You see Chris play a Nissa after combat. I think we might have a plant token on the way here for Andersen.
Yep. And Chris knows that Jim passing on turn 3 means he's probably got a Bounding Crassus in his hand.
Yeah.
That's why we saw the Elvish Visionary stay at home.
Which is smart. It's not worth the 1 point of damage for all the bad things that could happen. However, Jim is going to negate that Nissa. I think that's a difficult decision there for Jim with the negate because he knows that Chris has a Gideon.
Yeah.
So do I want to take care of this Planeswalker? Do I want to take care of probably the Planeswalker that's coming next turn?
Sure.
Which is the better of the 2. He decided Nissa was worth countering as he'll play a Prairie Stream.
And
nothing to do with 4 mana.
Yeah, nothing. In this format, it's so tough. 4 mana pass, you're screwed. 5 mana pass, you're in trouble.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's just really tough to watch a player like Jim Davis have nothing to do with that mana.
His deck just didn't help him out.
Yeah. For Chris Andersen, it's land number 5. And Thopters will be coming in. And again, Jim clearly with nothing, just has to take the damage. And now Chris, he's stuck.
He's got nothing. Yeah, this is just unfortunate.
Yeah, you would think that Gideon, I don't know what happened to that, but it must not actually be in his hand because he has nothing to do with 5 mana. So Jim, apparently he does have something to do with 4 mana. He'll cast a Collected Company. That's rather fortunate. And he's found 2 creatures in Reflector Mage and the Duskwatch Recruiter. Reflector Mage will take care of one of those tokens. And now Davis will draw. Evolving Wilds. team, I think, is in a little bit of trouble this game.
He hasn't come out super quick this game, but it's certainly not out of hand yet.
I think it might be in just a moment.
We know that Andersen's coming down on the board.
Do we?
We speculate that Andersen's coming down on the board.
Are you sure?
But, I mean, if Jim draws his own Andersen, he's right back in it.
Yeah.
You know, he gets to eat the opponent's Andersen.
The Andersen wars are going to be really interesting.
Well, that doesn't necessarily happen. Chris does have that Gideon in his hand.
That's true.
And he can just token up and give himself insurance against an opposing Andersen.
That's very true. Oh, boy.
It's going to feel him out.
Yeah. All right. Archangel Andersen is here. Oh, we might see Bronton Crassus tap it down.
And with Jim, with not a whole lot of good plays, making the best out of a bad situation.
Yeah, that's what it feels like, right? He's able to push at least a little bit of damage through.
Yep. He's going to get 2 points in here.
Now there's a quick block there from Chris. Elvish Visionary, of course, is indestructible right now. There's a Plains from Jim, and he'll pass the turn back over to Chris. Chris will untap those 5 lands pretty quick. Take a draw. I think that might be 3 Gideons, at least 2 over there, and there's a Forest for the turn. Oh, the other card, Secure the Waste.
Average hand.
Yeah.
Yep.
I can see why Chris is 8-1 now. Makes a little more sense.
A lot of powerful cards.
Yes.
Planeswalkers, Angels.
Hey, man, white's no joke.
1/1s for 2.
White is no joke. The trick is to figure out what color to pair it with, or colors, I suppose. The beatdown's in the air from Andersen. It's 5 points being dealt.
Yeah, and this clock is no joke. 5 points a turn, especially when we know the Gideons are looming.
Yeah. Now, what's going to make this a little bit interesting, I think, is how Chris wants to play the rest of this game. Now, he's going to start by playing a Gideon. And the reason I say that is because does he want to show Secure the Waste? Jim hasn't seen it yet.
Yeah.
I'm not convinced Chris needs Secure the Waste to win this game.
No, I expect this game to be closed out without the Secure the Waste.
Okay. And that sort of hidden information is actually a pretty big deal if it does come up.
There's some value there. I mean, Jim's no rookie.
Of course.
So I think he's going to know when he sees all these token effects and these planeswalkers that have glorious anthem effects. He's going to know that there's probably some amount of Secure the Waste on the other side of the board.
3 mana. Tireless Tracker, Evolving Wilds. Clue on the way.
Good, but not great in this situation.
Yeah. Jim's going to search for a basic with that Evolving Wilds to get another clue. Yeah, trying to figure out where Tracker is at its best, I think, is going to be a fun experiment for people.
Mm-hmm.
In certain situations, like we saw against Shaheen Sarani, it was unbelievable.
Yes.
In situations like this, it's just a little bit too slow.
Sure, but it's still a 3-mana 3/2. He didn't have to invest a whole lot of time into it.
Yep.
You know, there's very few creatures that would have been really good in this situation.
It's true.
And having a card that can be so high impact that can be found off of Collected Company is pretty great.
3-minute Inspector, the draw here for Chris.
So now we get to see if Chris wants to start battling through this ground a little bit with Gideon, if he just wants to make a token and open up his other Gideon to be played.
Well, here comes that emblem. So Andersen's going to give all of his creatures +1/+1 permanently. And now the question is it time for maybe another Gideon emblem? There's a land. 4 mana. I think this question's being answered right now. Give me another emblem.
I love it.
Yeah. Play one way.
Oh, I showed up with multiple emblem tokens here. He's ready for this.
Yeah. Beatdown's in the air. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Davis is going to fall down to 2. There's a Thraben Inspector.
And Chris has put himself in a position where even if his opponent draws Archangel of Andersen, they're still lethal on the board.
Yeah.
You know, by double tokening that turn and putting his opponent to 2, the Thopter represents a lethal attack next turn.
Yeah, Jim found a Reflector Mage. Reflector Mage could bounce the Archangel Avacyn, but as you mentioned, the Thopter is still lethal.
Yep.
So to get the job done. Chris Andersen ties things up against Jim Davis. Green-white tokens ties it up against Band Company.
It was well played by Chris there.
Yeah, I like that. You know, the other thing that I like about that particular game is just not showing Secure the Waste.
Yes.
I think that could play a huge role in this third game. As you said, Jim is no rookie, but, you know, how many copies does my opponent have in their deck? We know that Chris has 4. He's got the full amount of Secure the Waste, and that's a huge proponent of his deck, but Jim hasn't seen it yet, so it might not be on the forefront of his mind.
But I can't imagine he didn't bring in Declaration in Stone.
Of course.
And we saw the negate that game. So Jim's deck has already sideboarded in the cards that he needs to beat a card like that.
Yeah, it's certainly not the end-all, be-all.
Sure, it's more, does Jim know that he might need to play around it at some points in the game?
Both players going back to the sideboard. We'll take a look yet again. You saw Chris bring in Archangel Avacyn. Not sure if he brought it in the full amount, but we know at least one is in there. Clip Wings here in both players' sideboards. They both have access to Jamoka's Command and Declarations in Stone. Not sure much changes player draw here.
I wouldn't think a whole lot would. But both of these players, being veterans, they'll do the sideboard switcheroo where they pretend like they're adjusting their decks. It'll look like they're changing things even if they're not, just to keep their opponents on their toes.
Well, it'll be Jim Davis on the play here for game number 3. And in the meantime, we will learn a little bit more about the StarCityGames.com newsletter. It is your source for Magic the Gathering news. You can find Jim Davis in there, Chris Andersen, and a bevy of other very talented magicians and writers. You can also get the latest on the SCG Tour, watch the SCG Tour match of the week, receive exclusive deck lists and advice, catch up on all the event results, and read an exclusive cardboard crack comic. Best of all, it is free to sign up for. Go to StarCityGames.com/newsletter to sign up for free today.
Wow, that's a big cost.
Yeah, I know.
$0.
It's approximately $0. Chris Andersen, the team captain of Team Lotus. He is 8-1 this weekend. It's been a tough start of the year for Chris. You know, he's got very close to qualifying for the Players' Championship last year, which of course Jim won. And he said, you know what, I'm going to try again, but I want to do it with some teammates this go around. So he and his team, with Andrew Tencham, Kent Ketter, and a bevy of other wonderful players, Jacob Ball, who's won an Open this year, they've been making a name for themselves on the SCG Tour.
Well, it's always easier to do it as a group. When you have a lot of talent around you and each person can contribute a little bit where other people may be lacking, it makes everyone better.
Yeah, and the teamwork for these guys has been pretty impressive. Andrew Tencham within the top 3 right now on the SCG Tour leaderboard. It looks like he might be headed to the Players' Championship and qualifying early, and I know that Chris and Kent and Jacob and the rest of the gang, they want to get it out of the way. The 26-year-old from Minneapolis, Indiana, with 17 Open top 8s. That's a lot of those. 1 Open win. I know he wants to add more to that resume.
I'll get him one of these days with the top 8s.
You're going to catch him down?
Yeah.
And he started playing Magic at the age of 4, so whenever you do watch Chris play, sometimes you'll see some older lands in his deck and some older cards because his dad taught him to play many moons ago, obviously.
That's a little bit of experience that he's pulling from.
Yeah, so he's actually got like, you know, like some parents have like old records and old various things. Like my dad has a million old comic books.
Sure.
Chris's parents have like old Magic cards that he sometimes uses in his tournaments. So I remember one of the tournaments he top 8, I think he actually won with a Tesserator deck. Like his dad just had the Transmute artifacts. So he just didn't have to worry about that. Yeah, it's always a good problem to have.
Yeah, most people are like, man, I want to play this deck, but I'd have to track down 4 Transmute artifacts or whatever.
Yo, Pops, can I use these?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. Looks like Davis is going to keep, as is Andersen. We're underway. Evolving Wilds is where Jim will start. Westville Abbey, the draw. Now, that's another card that we have not seen yet.
Yep, first appearance of that.
Yeah. That'll be Chris's first land. Jim will sacrifice the Wilds for a Plains.
And potentially Jim did go and change his deck a little bit after seeing Archangel Avacyn in Game 2 and knowing that Westville Abbey is probably looming for future games. Maybe he did bring in the Clip Wings.
Yeah, it's interesting because you're just kind of playing. Well, it's week 1. You're obviously playing a guessing game. But given what Jim has seen from Chris, I'm sure he's just like a little unsure of what's going on still. It's not 100% clear.
Sure.
Like, I would say the last game, and even the last 2 games, he's just played as kind of like a green-white mid-rangey deck more so than a token deck.
Well, we have seen some cards out of Chris's deck that wouldn't show up in a normal mid-rangey deck. Okay. The Scion Summoner.
That's true. That could be a deck.
Yeah, some of these cards are big tip-offs. Yep. Even the Thraben Inspector, not going to show up in most mid-range decks.
It's a port town. Revealing an island there for Jim. Sylvan Advocate comes across for 2. Andersen falls down to 18. And the big follow-up is a Duskwatch Recruiter. To Andersen we go for his 3rd turn of the game. He does have a copy of Secure the Waste in hand.
Looks like a Declaration in Stone. And he just drew an Angel off the top.
Good Magic card. The Visionary will allow Andersen to draw another card, a Forest. He'll play a Forest. And he'll just simply pass the turn back. Davis will untap, time for him to draw.
Chris is setting up here. He's got a couple of creatures, a lot of cards still in his hand. The question is, can Jim start putting a lot of pressure on him to where Chris's expensive, slower payoff cards are too slow?
Davis does have a negate in hand. For now, he'll just attack with a Sylvan Advocate. He'll pass the turn back and wants to transform the Duskwatch Recruit. And go ahead.
Yep, he'll get to do it.
Yeah, now, one of the interactions that just jumped in my head I didn't realize before is that if you transform this with 4 mana available.
Angel a turn sooner.
Yeah, that's a thing. That could happen right now. Not sure if Jim has the Angel in his hand or not, but that's a pretty sweet interaction for green-white decks.
That seems pretty good.
Somewhat powerful, maybe?
Yeah.
Plains for Chris. Now, you mentioned it's a lot of setup so far. Now it's time to find the payoffs.
Yeah, well, and Chris is probably thinking, if my opponent casts Archangel Avacyn this turn, what's my path to victory? How do I defend against that? If he casts Collected Company this turn, what am I going to do about that?
Yeah.
You know?
This is just where Jim's deck is so powerful. 4 mana available, and especially with Archangel being in the equation right now. Chris hasn't seen Ochitai's Command. That could be an issue. Bounding Crassus is still on the table. All right, there's a Declaration in Stone.
Yeah, Chris is going to go double spell here. This might not have been his play if the Werewolf hadn't flipped, but the benefits here is that he gets to flip it back.
Also a thing to keep in mind, checking Jim's mana. Yeah, he has enough mana to actually go Bounding Crassus and Negate, because Crassus only costs 2 right now.
Yeah.
So that's pretty sick.
I would think if he has the Archangel Avacyn, he just wants to get it on the board and start pressuring his opponent, especially after his opponent has just played his removal spell and Declaration in Stone. It's that much less likely that Chris has another card to deal with the Angel when it comes down.
Jim going to go with Crassus, tap down the Elvis Visionary, and crack the clue.
Okay, so he's a little bit cagey here if he has the Angel.
Picked up a copy of Jace. 2 spells will mean that will have to transform back.
Yep.
Declaration of Stone, Elvish Visionary. People have to get used to that again.
Yes.
You know, we haven't been in Innistrad for a handful of years.
Yeah, it's been a while since we've just flipped our cards back and forth and back and forth.
Jace, Den Protector, another Duskwatch Recruiter. In Jim's hand. No Collected Company, no Archangel Avacyn yet.
The negate, like you said.
Yeah. Kind of a difficult turn here for Davis, just in the fact that how does he want to kind of plot out this game?
Sure, yeah. What are the threats that he wants to get on the board?
Yeah.
You know, does he want to go Duskwatch Recruiter here? Does he want to get Jace on the board? Does he want to leave negate up?
No spell, no activation, just a transformation.
Does he want to transform his werewolf?
Yeah. He's got so many different ways he can go and so many different cards he can bluff.
Yes.
There's a Forest. That's land number 5. Ah, yes.
Oh, man.
The classic.
Just flooded out again.
Yeah.
Tough.
Just bad luck.
And it looks like Jim does have an Archangel in his hand.
Yeah, he does.
But he's thinking, if my opponent has an Archangel, mine's just going to run into his when his is indestructible.
Yep.
Not the situation you want to be in.
Yep. These are the Archangel Wars. I feel like he's not forced to cast it, but it almost feels like he is.
Yes.
Because then what else is he doing?
Exactly, yeah. Giving Chris a free turn, allowing Chris to basically time walk him where he didn't cast any spells. He's not going to be able to attack next turn into an Archangel Avacyn. Feels like he has to advance his board.
It's a 4-mana Archangel now.
Yeah, and Jim kind of reluctantly comes to the same conclusion.
Yeah, the thing is, with Archangel Avacyn, it reminds me kind of like a Trick and Limited right now, where it's like, yeah, you don't really get as much as you want,
Yeah.
but like you still do it.
Yes.
You know, you still just cast it.
Yeah, everyone's going to play around it because they have to,
Yeah,
but you still put them in your deck because it's so darn good.
yeah. In that spot, I think, Jim, you still have to just cast it, get your 4/4 out there. But now this is the part where he has to be careful because, as you mentioned, Chris passing with 5 mana, such bad luck, but
Yeah.
not really at all.
Yeah, a lot of air quotes there. Bad luck.
Here's a Jace that costs 1 mana. That's pretty sweet. See if Jim wants to play 2 spells this turn. Evolving Wilds is the land. Yeah, I'd be shocked if he's willing to attack. Yeah, I don't think he's willing to attack.
Sure, and Chris Andersen has the option here to cast the Secure the Waste instead of his own Archangel of Avacyn,
Yep.
which will still give him his Archangel insurance policy for later in the game.
Okay. So there's Archangel.
But he had seen negate previously, so he might not want to just run the Secure the Waste into the open negate.
Yeah. Very true.
A lot of interesting back and forth here.
There's a land. So now Chris can start activating Westville Abbey
Yep.
to make human clerics and also just activate the thing. Now here's a Declaration in Stone.
Not bad.
All right, now one thing I wanted to check with this.
All other creatures, it's controller controls.
Correct.
Yep.
Doesn't have Bioblight Syndrome.
Nope. They decided to make this card that good.
Yeah, they sure did.
Yeah, you can't accidentally collateral damage yourself.
No. Yeah, I think this is worth negating if you're Jim, and he will.
Yep.
Wants to keep his Archangel. Oh, yeah, I love this. If this is an attack,
Yep.
this is awesome.
Yep.
Go ahead. Block my Elvish Mystic,
Yep. So,
please.
So let's get a look at the back of Archangel of Avacyn here.
Avacyn the Purifier, I believe. Now, when this transforms, it's bad news.
So all of Jim's little creatures are going to get swept up by this card if it transforms, as well as Chris's.
Yes.
But Chris has the Abbey and a Secure the Waste in his hand, so he can get back onto the board pretty quick. And what he might lose is much less significant than what Jim stands to lose in this situation.
The other thing, too, right, is that this is preventing Jim from attacking in any profitable way.
Yep.
Is what it feels like. You know, maybe Archangels run into each other.
Yes, they can offer that trade, but Jim has to be careful about getting in on the ground.
Here's a Jace activation. Perhaps. All right, that resolves. Plains a draw. And the discard here for Davis is Dead Plains.
And we see the Den Protector in Jim's hand. That'll make him more inclined to trade Avacyns because he can rebuy his.
Reasonable. But is that what he wants to rebuy?
Not necessarily, but it's certainly high on the list.
I think in this spot, more than anything, Jim just wants to get Chris's Avacyn off the battlefield. Chris is not going to bite. He says, I'll take the 4 because I like having my Avacyn here. Canopy Vista there for Jim. Den Protector, it looks like might be morphed, and it is. It only costs 2 because of the Commonwealth Horde.
Yep.
Which is a pretty big deal. And Secure the Waste.
This may be in response to the morph.
Perhaps. No, it's not. Hey, I just realized something.
We might not see a whole lot of attacking going on.
I just realized another combo.
Do tell.
So you activate Westville Abbey.
Yes.
That means creatures have died for Archangel Avacyn.
Yes, that's not bad.
Then you have a 9/7 monster that has all the text, and then your Avacyn has transformed as well.
Yep, sweeping up the opponent's board.
Yeah, I think this is going to be kind of hard for Jim to win
Yeah.
now. So, hey, Westville Abbey has transformed for the second time. Harlan did it yesterday.
Yep.
For Ormondal, Profane Prince.
Another average card.
Perhaps this is how Chris is 8-1. Kind of a free attack here.
Yes.
Gives
This
the business.
seems like a good situation.
Yes, it does.
9 life, is that good? Gaining 9 life?
I think he would like to go to 18. It would be a tie game then.
How about dealing 9 damage? Is that good?
Then it would not be a tie game.
Yeah.
No longer be a tie game. I suppose Jim could chump block with his Archangel Avacyn.
Yeah.
That's an option here.
I put this Mythic Rare in my deck to chump block.
Yes.
Yeah.
I had a feeling you did. The player's champion is in a lot of trouble.
Jim just kind of shrugged and took the damage there.
Yep.
What the heck am I going to do?
On the end step, Jim may have some effects here. It might be Unmorphing Den Protector. I'm not sure.
Yep, but that'll take some green mana.
Yep. It's going to untap, and there will be a trigger on the stack. Oh, Jim can have a response by activating his Jace to transform that.
It's a good start, and
Yeah.
it's going to give Jim one more card to look at that he could rebuy with the Den Protector.
Yeah. In the off chance that maybe he found an Archangel Avacyn, he could save his team by giving it all indestructible, but it does not appear as though he did.
And one of the things that's a little humorous here is that the Archangel transforming and killing some creatures is going to force the other Archangel to transform.
Oh, Well, but it'll transform the following turn.
Yes.
Correct, okay.
Not at the same time, but
Yeah,
yes. They're triggering off of each other. These two angry angels
Okay.
making each other upset.
Yep. This is the first time we've watched the Avacyn Wars.
Yes.
Kind of cool, actually.
There's a lot of play to them.
Yeah.
You have to think about it a little bit before it becomes apparent what's going on,
Yeah,
what
you
the
definitely do.
ramifications are going to be.
Yeah. So Chris's Archangel Avacyn is going to transform, and it'll deal 3 damage to each other creature and each opponent. So a lot of Jim's stuff is going to bite the dust. Jace is going to fall down to 2 because Chris is going to redirect, and now Jim will draw for his turn. Picked up a Forest. Jim wants to read Avacyn the Purifier.
That's funny. He could have just picked up his own.
Yeah.
What does this card do?
How am I supposed to beat Ormondal?
Yeah, that's the real problem.
We said kind of going in that Chris's deck might be the best Ormondal deck that we've seen so far this weekend. It was trivial for him to turn on. Very easy.
Yes. Well, and you were commenting that the Archangel Avacyns that are sitting in his sideboard, why?
Yeah, that was the thing. When we looked at the deck list before we went live, I was like, oh, this is just a weird card on your sideboard. What matchup do you want this for besides all of them?
Yeah.
Basically, because the card is so good.
Yeah, it seems like it's going to come in against the creature matchups. When you get to transform it, you blow up their side of the board. If they're trying to attack you aggressively, it's a great card to come down, give your creatures indestructible and make good blocks. It's a threat all by itself. It just does everything.
Yeah. To me, this is kind of like week 1 syndrome. Well, everyone's deck is just not going to be built correctly.
Sure.
You know, everyone's just guessing like we are kind of here in the booth.
Yeah, we'll see a lot of people that are close, and maybe something like these 4 Archangels moving into the main deck is going to be the right move.
Yeah. There's a Declaration in Stone to kill Avacyn the Purifier, and that is going to do it. Chris Anderson's going to win this match over Jim Davis, 2-1. Green-white tokens will take care of Bant Company, and that shows off the power of both Westville Abbey and Archangel Avacyn.
Yeah, they got the job done.
They certainly did. And